Welcome back, guys, to yet another World of Warcraft video for the World Within. Today, I'm going to be talking about a little bit of a trick that has the potential to make you, millions of extra gold in the World Within. And I'll try to put this in the most simple way as I possibly can, but still give you a couple options for what is available out there. And what we're talking about today, in the grand scheme of things, is going to be a profession gear funnel, right? And what I mean by that is in every single profession for the World Within, you have two profession accessories and a profession tool. Now, whichever profession that you go for, what you actually do for this purpose might be a little different, but I'll go over an example so you guys get the idea of what to look for. Now, the reason why this is so important, especially early on, is because the amount of artisan's acuity that you get early on is very, very limited. And if you want the blue versions of profession gear, because you can see right here, we're going to get a lot of the green versions, which we can very easily equip, and they give, decent profession stats, some profession skill and all this, and that's completely fine. But if you want to min-max how much you get out of a profession, and you also want to make sure that you get as many plus skill points as you possibly can, you need the blue versions of these profession tools. If you get a full set of the green ones, it'll be about 22 skill points. But if you get a full set of these blue profession gear pieces, two accessories and a tool, you'll get 40 skill points, right? And when I talk about skill points, I'm talking about these in the profession right here. That's going to make a huge difference on how much concentration that you spend early on, but it might also, make you reach some of the very important breakpoints for whatever build that you end up choosing, depending on your profession, before Season 1 launches, right? And this is a way that lets you at least focus some of your artisan's acuity elsewhere than just into profession gear. And here's the thing, right? Every single piece of blue profession gear costs 300 artisan's acuity, which is quite a lot, so you'll need 900 to get all three pieces done. And you'll need a little bit, I think it's like 20 if you want to recraft it. So once you actually get it crafted early on, people might not be able to make it for quality 5 immediately. So you might have to recraft it as well, maybe once or twice, depending on whether or not people use concentration for it. So again, that's going to be probably 1,000 artisan's acuity that you need to spend. And if you have a profession like tailoring and you want to craft the profession bags, there's like 8 different ones, and they all cost 150 artisan's acuity to get. So if you have a profession like that and you need to spend, over 1,000 artisan's acuity on recipes for bags, you won't have enough for your profession gear. And if you go for the profession gear, you won't have enough for your lovely, lovely profession bag recipes. And this is the case across all the professions, right? That you have some knowledge points that you can buy from vendors that cost you a little bit, and then you have some recipes that you have to buy from vendors as well that cost you a little bit, and then you have your profession gear. Here's the thing about profession gear though, especially the blue stuff. This is bind on pickup, so you have to make it through the work order system. Now, what you can do is you can have whatever main character that you have send yourself a personal order on a secondary character, and that character can get to a point where they can make it. Now, here's the thing though, right? Early on, you just want to make sure that you actually get these blue gear crafted, because the skill points on them that you get, for example, on this artisan's leatherworking knife, the plus 18 Castlegar leatherworking skill, that does not change depending on the quality. So if you make it quality 1, still 18. If you make it quality 5, it's still going to be 18. It's actually only the secondary profession stats that change in their values, which obviously is important, but early on you really, really, really care about the skill. So because of that, you can sacrifice an alt progression, right? If you don't plan on using it, or you're fine with maybe just starting a month later on it, or being a little bit behind in artisan's acuity, if you use it for builds that don't require a lot of it, then that's fine. This way, right, you can see here that buying this particular recipe, if we were to craft the leatherworking one, you have to buy that from Lorendal here in Dornegal. right here. So this vendor in the Artisans Consortium area, you'll see that once you get to an unlocked point, you'll see that the Leatherworkings knife here will be able to buy this for 150 Artisan's Acuity. This will, require you to be level 35 in blacksmithing, which is, considered like it's super easy to reach. It's actually not even that expensive. So once you have that learned, you'll be able to make that at a minimum of rank 1, right? It'd be great if you can just, use some concentration. Boom, you'll be able to make it at rank 2. You might even be able to make it at rank 3 if you spend a little more gold, maybe get a little further into the profession. It kind of depends on how far you want to go. But the important thing is getting it crafted. Now, one thing that you can do is you pick up the one-time collectible quest from this particular NPC. I've made a separate video on that, but what you get out of that is 200 Artisan's Acuity. Now you also get a couple other materials, some iron claw, you get some bismuth, an optional reagent, and things like that. You can also get some of those rewards. They're very like profession related, so it doesn't have to be ore. It could also be cloth, it could also be leather or chitin, or it could be, whatever materials that you need for whatever professions that you have learned. And that quest will be from this particular vendor. But once you're at this point and you actually get access to 200 of these Artisan's Acuity, you can make a choice, okay? If you want to provide your main character with all 3 profession tools from alts, you can be like, okay, well, I need at least 450 Artisan's Acuity for 1 profession tool. And you do that because, again, as I just mentioned, if you look at the Artisan's Leatherworker's Knife, you need 300 Artisan's Acuity. But if you also want to buy the recipe needed for whatever this is, right, it's the Artisan's Leatherworking Knife, you need another 150. Which then means 300 and the 150 is 450. Now, we get 200 on a new character, just baseline from that one-time, that one-time quest will give us 200 of these points. So here, we have to make a decision on where to go for the rest of the 250 points. Now, there's a lot of different options for what you can actually do. One being picking up, either skinning, mining, or herbalism, because every single time that you learn, like you gather a new herb or ore or piece of skin, the first time, you'll get 3 Artisan's Acuity. And that's fine, because eventually, if you do all of those, that's 83 different recipes. But the only problem with that is that will take quite a long time. I imagine, especially early on, depending on competition, that might take you like quite a long time. And even then, you still want to probably do it, right? Even if it takes you like an hour or 2, those are your options. But that will actually give you about 3 Artisan's Acuity per new node that you learn in your profession. You might notice that I'm in the middle of the screen now, but I wanted to show you something, because a lot of people have been wondering, okay, well, what about the first craft bonuses in something like the crafting professions? But I'm here to show you right now. You'll see down the in the left corner there, when you do any type of first craft in a profession, it actually only gives you 1 Artisan's Acuity. Now, we only need 250, so if you were to shuffle through all of the professions and do all of the possible like early first craft bonuses, then yeah, sure, you would be able to get it. But this is actually pretty expensive, considering how many first craft bonuses you would have to do. But this could also be an area where you shuffle through all the crafting professions to actually, consider that, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and shuffle through. I'm going to pick up, blacksmithing, engineering, do first crafts, tailoring, enchanting, do all the first crafts and all that. And then whatever you get up to from the most cheap point, then you'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and do mining, herbalism, and skinning now, even though that's going to take ages. It'll return me some gold for doing the gathering, right? So whichever one that you end up doing, that will eventually get you those 250 Artisan's Acuity. Now, actually, since I did mention enchanting, and I'll go ahead and move this back, the thing about enchanting is when you disenchant pieces of gear, that is actually where Enchanting gets some of its weekly knowledge point rewards. So in reality, if you go ahead in a crafting profession like blacksmithing and you were to craft a lot of this blue gear, maybe even some of the green gear, if you buy the, the profession recipes for PvP, which you probably won't early on, but even this, whichever gear is bind and equip, you can use that, save that in your bags to when you eventually swap in to Enchanting in the shuffle, and then you'll disenchant the lot of it and get, I think it's like 8 knowledge points or something like that, but that will also award you with some artisan's acuity, so make sure to keep that in mind. And if it's more or less knowledge points, that's still fine, because you can either choose to get some of your gold back by trying to sell the gear pieces on the auction house, but they're very likely to be incredibly low in value because mostly everyone will be crafting them to level their professions. So if you disenchant them, then you have, disenchanted materials, right? So you have new enchanting materials that you can use for that purpose of maybe either selling or even using it for getting some of the first craft bonuses in Enchanting. And that's completely up to you and like where you want to go for that. But just keep that in mind. At this point, right, if you've gone through and shuffled through all the cheap, depending on how many cheap first craft bonuses you have in the professions for crafting professions, and maybe you've done like an hour or two, maybe longer on however long it takes you to get to the 450 points, then you're where you need to be, right? Once you're at that point and you have your recipe learned and you have the required artisan's acuity, then whatever materials are needed, you go on your main character. And just to show you guys, in case you haven't interacted with the lovely, lovely work order system before, because obviously we all like it and we have no quarrels, you walk over to the crafting order system on your main and you would be like, okay, well, I need a piece of profession equipment, leatherworking, and I need the tool. You'll find the one that you actually need, and then you go to a personal order. This would be sent from my main over to my crafter, where I would then walk over to my, whatever is my crafting table, in this case, blacksmithing. I fly into a pillar when I need to go over. You walk over to your, your blacksmith's table in the main city. You walk over, you find your crafting orders, and it'll be right here on the personal orders. And you just go ahead and craft it. And then at that point, you have yourself a blue epic, well, not epic, blue rare piece of crafted equipment. And that's just one of them. And you'll have to do this on 3 alts. And obviously, this isn't going to be for everyone, because throwing away, and I say that, or sacrificing the progress of an alt is really rough, right? Because you can't, like, you get put really, really far behind, maybe even like, I would say like a week or 2 or more in progress if you end up doing this, because not having those 200 artisans acuity for a character early on is really problematic, right? Because it could mean like it could buy you a recipe, it could be used for buying early knowledge points for renown unlocks, really, because some of the, like, if you unlock, just to give you guys an example, if you unlock this profession knowledge, just being one thing, I'll actually fly over to show you, they cost about 50 lovely artisans acuity. Now, they do actually give 10 knowledge points back, so you'll actually end up getting most of your knowledge, most of your artisans acuity back, so it's not a big issue. But if you first have to farm or gain all of that artisans acuity back, then it's going to take much longer, right? Your progress on that character, depending on how much time you have to spend on ults, might be hours and hours for a week, or multiple weeks of resets behind, because you'll see right here they're 50. So just keep that in mind when you're making considerations like this. If you want a couple characters that are absolutely main, they're the main characters, you're going to be spending a lot of time maxing that profession, and you want to min-max as much as possible in your profession, then this is absolutely for you. But for alt army purposes, you might be okay with, not min-maxing this much. So just keep in mind that this actually pretty much sacrifices to progress on whatever character that you end up doing, you know, the profession craft on. But I hope that this video made sense in some way, shape, or form. It's an interesting subject, and obviously, depending on whatever crafting profession that you're doing this for, however far that you need to learn, you know, that you need a profession to get to, whichever it is that you're buying, however many that you need, right? Because some professions might not have as many recipes that they need to buy, or things that they need to use artisan's acuity on. So it might be more alright for some professions to use whatever they get on getting the profession gear themselves. But this is quite the interesting conversation, and it's something that both but lots of communities have been talking about, getting ready for the War Within. So if you guys have any thoughts or any ideas, make sure you drop that down in the comments below. But if you did make it all the way to this point in the video, make sure that you type, well, what are we gonna say? We're gonna say, make sure that you type funnel down in the description below, because that's what this video is about. FUNNEL. And I appreciate it, because if you do type that, then I'll know that you watched it all the way to this point in the video. But as always, I'll see you on the next one.